Hey guys! Oh my goodness, welcome to the Fort Worth Fabric Studios All Together Spooky Mystery Quilt. And it is a mini quilt. The finished size is 35 inches by 35 inches. And you should have in front of you the list of all your materials and what to cut out of each fabric. Okay, so the first thing that I do when I get their list like this is I take all the fabric out of the kit and I go ahead and I label everything with alphabetes, A through O, which is what they have for this project. Now, if you don't have alphabetes, you don't need them. You can just use pieces of paper if you want, write A through O on them, and just pin them to the fabric. This is just to help you keep everything together because it really does help. And if you are using your own fabric, then all you need to do is for each one, you just need to figure out which fabric you want in each category, and they tell you just to the side what you need out of each piece of fabric, okay? And I mean, it's super easy. Some of them have like 2 pieces that you need. Like if you look at C, it says Glow Star Scatter Black, which for us is this, and you need 7 inches by width of fabric, which is this piece, and you also need a 7-inch by 22-inch, which is this second piece that they gave us. And so I just take the whole thing before I start cutting, or even before I starch or anything. Before I do anything with it, I just make sure I break them into their respective parts, their respective letters there. It just makes it so much simpler once you have all of those labeled to get going. And so what I'm going to do now is I am going to stop. I'm going to go and I'm going to starch all of my fabric because that's just what I do. And if you do that, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine too. No rules here, no judgment. If you're interested, the starch I use is Best Press, and that's what I'm going to go do now. And then I'm not going to go over every single cut here, but I will go over some with you. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to ask down below in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer anything I can. So I'll be right back as soon as I get all of this starched up. Hey guys, I'm back, and now that I have pressed all my fabric, I'm ready to start doing our cutting. Now, I think everyone will agree with me that the cutting is the most boring part, and you'll be tempted to wait until you get your instructions and then cut what you need then. I strongly advise that you just do the cutting now. Here's the thing. The first time that I was doing one of these, I thought the same thing. I thought, oh, I'm just going to wait to cut. And then eventually thought, oh, this is crazy. I'll just do the cutting. You guys, I'm telling you that when you get to doing your sewing, if you have all your cutting done already, it's so much more enjoyable. So let's just get this done. Let's just get this all cut. I'm going to start with A. Here's my A fabric. And from the A, I'm supposed to have one 5.5-inch strip. Okay. So, I just want to, when you lay it out and you smooth it like this is just my opinion, I just find that you end up with less of the curviness, because I used to have a problem like that and realized that I was so concerned with keeping the lines, like the fabric, straight on the side, that I was sort of skewing the fabric. And so if I I just find if I sort of just, you know, smooth it out, I know that that's the lay of that fabric. Let's see, let me get a good... Is that long enough? Okay, but it's not 5.5. Do I have a 5? I have like 30 rulers over here. I think you know I have way too many. What is this? What size is that? That's only 4.5. Let me... Well, I got no kitties over here. Thank goodness. They would be going crazy right now with me and the rulers. Okay. So I'm just going to use this one. If I clean it off. Oh, goodness. Okay. So my 5.5 is like right here, and there's still loads of fabric on the other side. So I'm just going to do like a real generous cut. I'm just sort of making sure that the one line, it doesn't even matter which, that A line is even with the bottom of my fabric so that I know that I'm cutting it straight that way. Then I'll just flip it around because I have a nice straight edge on that side now. I'll line my 5.5 inch up on this side, and as I've said before, you want to make sure that your black line is just to the inside, if anything, of your fabric. You don't want to put it to the outside because then you're ultimately making it smaller than the 5.5. You'd rather that it be just slightly bigger than the 5.5 if you're going to, because that's what I do, is I just make sure I see like this minuscule little piece to the left. I mean very, very tiny. I just barely see it. Okay, so now that I have a 5.5 inch strip, I am going to subcut this into 4 5.5 inch squares. Okay, so I will pull this out, and obviously we're going to have some extras, some extra fabric, which is great. They're always very generous with their kits, which I really, really appreciate. Thank you so much, Jody. Okay, so I have some selvage here, so I'm just going to make sure that my 5.5 is to this side of the selvage so that I can trim that off. And I just kept it in half, or like folded over, so I'm basically cutting 2 pieces right now. And then I'm just going to turn this around. And just on that piece, I'm going to line my 5.5 inch up and then cut. Okay, so I have 2 cut. And then I'm going to go back, line my 5.5 inch up here. And just kind of eyeball and make sure that your line is also touching, or a line is just the same line as touching across here, just so you're kind of making sure that your cuts are correct. Okay, so I have my 4 pieces, and now I'm just going to kind of press it to get this little thing out, the little bump. Okay. So, once I have them lined up, I'm now going to take my A again and clip that to it, because these are now my A cuts. Okay. Now I'm going to take B. I will keep this. We'll just scooch it over into an extras pile. And with fabric B, we want, one 5.5 inch strip. So we'll do that first, just like we just did with that first fabric. Okay. Okay, so on this one, I just want to make note that these are going to be, we need 4 5.5 by 10.5 rectangles. And she makes note that we need to be careful to fit it between the selvages. Okay, so what that means to me is I am going to make sure that my 10.5 is butted right up against the selvage, and I'm doing this one layer. I'm not going to double this one up just because she's kind of telling us it's going to be tight. So I'm going to make that cut. Then I'm going to flip it around to cut the selvage off. I'll line my 10.5 inch over here. Just to make sure. And then I'll do the other 3. Okay, so now we are on to fabric C. And fabric C had 2 pieces. It had a 7-inch wide by the width of fabric and a 7-inch by 22-inch. So here is, let's see, that's the 17 by 22, or 7 by 22, sorry. Let's see, it says, okay, so from the 7-inch by 22, we want to have, we want to cut this into a 5.5-inch strip first. So one moment. Okay. I'm just going to make sure it's lined up on the bottom. And then I'm going to flip it around. Line up 5.5 inches on the left. Okay, and then I'm going to subcut this into 2 5.5-inch squares. Okay. So I'm just going to make sure that my 5.5-inch line is to the right of the selvage. And then I'll trim off the selvage. So I have those 2 pieces, and I have a little extra. And then with this piece, okay, it wants a 5.5-inch strip. And then we are going to get 6 5.5-inch squares out of this one. Okay, so now we are on to our fabric D. And fabric D says that I need a 6-inch strip. Okay, and then from this 6-inch strip, I'm going to have 2 4x4 squares and 4 1.5 by 2.5 rectangles. Okay. Okay, so now we are on fabric E. And looks like it's just this small piece. Okay, we need a 6-inch strip subcut into 2 4.5-inch squares. Okay, so I'm just going to probably do, sorry, did I say 4.5? 4-inch squares. 2 4-inch squares. Okay. Okay, so now I'm moving on to fabric F. And we have a width of fabric again. Okay, so we want a 4-inch strip. Okay, so they want us to make this into a 4-inch strip. Okay, let's do that first. Okay, the first thing we want is 2 4-inch squares. And I need 4 1 7/8 by 8.5-inch rectangles. Okay. Okay, so now I'm on the G fabric. The H wants to come along for the ride. Okay. We have 2 pieces in the G fabric. We have a 6 by 10-inch piece and 1/4 yard. Okay, so let's do this one first. Let me give it a nice press. Okay, let's see. Okay, out of this one, we need 2 4-inch squares. Okay, for this one, we need 2 3.5-inch strips, and we're going to keep them the width of fabric. Okay. Okay, so now we are on fabric H. We have these lovely little pumpkins. And it says that we want to have a 6-inch strip, and we're going to cut it into 4 6-inch by 8.5-inch rectangles. Okay. Okay, so now we are doing fabric I. And fabric I, we just need to cut 2 3 1/4 inch strips. Okay, so now we are up to fabric J. Fabric J says that we also need 2 3 1/4 inch strips. Okay, fabric letter K. We need, first we need to make this into a 2-inch strip. Okay, and they want us to subcut this into 4 1 7/8 inch by 8.5 inch rectangles. Okay, so now we have fabric L, and fabric L says that we're going to do it the same as we just did for fabric K. We're going to make this into a 2-inch strip, and then we're going to subcut it into 4 1 7/8 inch by 8.5 inch rectangles. Okay. Okay, so I am back and I have fabric M, and we are going to start cutting that fabric. Okay, this fabric, this piece is 19 inches by the width of fabric. So we are going to cut our pieces. Let me, actually I think I'm going to start from this side because I want to get this trimmed off over here. Let's see here. Okay. Hey, buddy. There you go. That was Jelly Bean. Okay, so let me just trim this part off first. I'm hoping that I'm getting all the way down. Because that's the, okay. I don't want to like cut too much off, but because I want to make sure that I have the right amount and all of that. I know some of you may think I'm entirely too meticulous, but that's just me. It's just my personality. I'm sorry if it bothers you. Okay, so now that I have a clean edge over here, I'm going to turn it around. Because I'm right-handed, so that's, you know, how I cut. So if you're left-handed, obviously you would start the other way and then flip it around. And I need 2 strips at 4 3/4. Okay. So I'm going to get my 4 3/4. 2 strips. Okay. And I always read it twice because I have made that mistake. All right, 4 3/4. And okay, 4 3/4, because it said to do 2. And then I need 1 3-inch strip. I need one 2.5 inch strip. And then one 2 1/4 strip. Okay. So now I'm going to take the 2 strips that are 4 3/4 and I'm going to subcut these into 8 4 3/4 by 9 1/2 rectangles. Okay, now I have the 3-inch strip, and we are going to cut 8 3-inch by 4 1/4 inch rectangles. That's 8 3-inch by 4 1/4 inch rectangles. Okay. Okay, and finally we have this 2 1/4 inch strip, and we need to cut this, or subcut it, into 16 2 1/4 inch squares. Okay. Okay, so now we are on fabric in, which is our last cut, because the O fabric is our backing, so there's no cutting there. We have 2 pieces. First we have this one 4x4 piece, and then we have this, this is 3/8 of a yard that we have. And I think this might actually be the binding. Yes, so this is the binding, and we need one 4x4 square. That's obviously bigger than 4x4, so let's just get that cut. Okay, so this is the fabric for the binding, and they want us to cut 5 2 1/2 inch strips. Now I personally prefer a thinner binding, so I'm going to do mine 2 1/4. But you go ahead and do 2 1/2 if that's your preference. Okay, so here's the last cut, or the yes, the last cuts. Couldn't fit a wonder clip on that. I know I have some large ones somewhere, so I'll find one and I'll clip it. Okay, so that concludes our instructions for cutting all of our fabric, and now we are ready for that first square, and I'm so excited. So I hope you've had a good time cutting. And we'll be back, or I'll be back, I should say, for block number 1. Stay tuned.